Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys had a good 4th of July. I know it was a couple days ago, but I hope it was fun nonetheless. If you did not celebrate 4th of July because you're in a different country, that is totally fine. I'm not judging you.
Alright.
I promise. On to the teams. This is a Hulk control team. This is a team that I love to play, and I've actually played a lot of in a lot of different tournaments and just for fun. It centers on Hulk, Green Goliath, who is a 6-cost fist character. It says while he's active, whenever he takes damage or you take damage, he deals 2 to each opposing character, or 3 if it is on his burst phase. You combine that with the global from Magic Missile that says pay a bolt, deal 1 damage to a character, and you can pay multiple bolts to keep dealing damage to Hulk, and he's going to keep dealing damage to the board, your opponent's board, essentially board wiping him every time you want, as long as you're good with your energy. In order to get those bolts, I have Professor X recruiting young mutants to maintain some ramp, and Blue Eyes is on there in order to help me buy Hulk. Not a ton of high-cost characters outside of Hulk, so he just kind of helps for that and that alone, but it's useful. These 2 cards, Constantine and the Joker, are both great for slowing down and sort of controlling what my opponent can and cannot do. Constantine's a good low drop that I buy early, and Joker's there if I see something that's really going to help me situationally, like I need to stop him from Constantining or something. These last 2 spots I've kind of toyed around with over the time that I've been playing Dice Masters. Right now they're Oracle, and I think I'm actually going to switch out Alfred, but I ran Alfred for these 2 games. Overall, I like Oracle a lot. I think that's obviously it's a great card because it's going to make it really tough for your opponent to ramp. Alfred, he's good board presence, and he's going to stay on the board, and even if my opponent is running this same team against me, a Hulk control team. So yeah, that's what I got going on. So on my turn 1, my first roll was a sidekick, a shield, a question mark, and a mask. So I'd like the 2 masks, and I really like to buy Constantine here turn 1, and I have the ability to do that. So I pay 2 shields, pick up a Constantine, and save my 2 masks to PXG on my opponent's turn. So my opponent's running a sidekick team. Got some similarities between the team that I ran on my channel earlier and his team, but he's actually running Mary Jane MJ, which is a great ally. It gives Overcrush to anything that he wants when it gets KO'd, or excuse me, when it gets fielded. Foot Ninja, which is really scary, a 3-cost ally that's going to get +1/+1. Obviously, he has the ability to make all of this unblockable with Falcon Recon. He has Shannon Carter and Captain America, so he has 2 ways to buff his sidekicks. So he's got a lot of low drop minions or characters. Been playing a lot of Hearthstone. There you go. He looks like he's going to spin 3, though. I wonder what he's going to pick up, because he could pick up a Foot Ninja, but it looks like he's going to pick up a Big Entrance. That's an interesting choice because a lot of his characters are low drop. So buying a Big Entrance will reduce the cost, definitely, and will get them cycling through the bag quicker. But you can already pay for all that stuff fairly easily if you maintain some ramp. So re-rolling something to get another mask would have been nice there, I think, too. So on my turn, after I PXG'd, I have 7 dice. I have a lot of sidekicks. I'm not going to need those. I could save a couple if I wanted to see if I could roll bolts next turn and buy a Hulk. I could also try and shoot for buying an Oracle to limit his ability to ramp. As he's already bought a Big Entrance, limiting the amount of dice that he can roll along with that Big Entrance is actually a really great idea. In order to do that, though, I'd have to spend an awkward amount of energy, and I wouldn't have the ability to re-roll as much, unless I use one of those sidekicks and a bolt as ramp using my Blue Eyes Global. So I field a sidekick and field another sidekick. I'm going to pay a bolt and KO one of my sidekicks. And then all I have to do is pay those 2 to pick up an Oracle. Let's see if I do that. Yes. So now once that Oracle comes out, his ability to use Big Entrance as a discount is actually going to be a detriment buy because he hasn't started really ramping yet. He's got 6 dice he's going to roll this turn. So he's drawing his 6, or excuse me, his 4 from the bag and adding 2 to it. And he does pull Big Entrance. So let's see where this goes. This will be likely one of his biggest buy turns because of that Oracle. So he's definitely going to want to take advantage of buying what he can right now. Sidekick and a couple of bolts and a two-face on the big entrance. There's the burst face that he's looking for. Doesn't have a bolt to combo with the Blue Eyes White Dragon Global, but that's not so bad because all of his things, again, are fairly low cost. So he's going to pick up one Mary Jane, and he's going to pick up a Falcon right away. Both of those go in the bag. He passes priority to me, and I PXG, and that sidekick that was a shield burns. So I refill the bag, draw me 4, add the 2 that I prepped and the one that got KO'd last turn. And there's my Oracle right off the top, which is really helpful for me. And I roll it too, so that's great. So I'm one of its lower faces. But the nice thing about Oracle is it's got a lot of staying power. It's got a good, strong defense for a die. So he has one mask, but he's not going to be able to use that once Oracle gets fielded because she causes all globals to be 1 energy more for my opponent. So where he could PXG once on his turn, now he can only do it, or now he can't do it at all because he doesn't have 2 energy. So I KO two sidekicks and pay 2 to pick up Hulk. These have been good turns for me for setting up my win condition. My turn ends and his turn begins. His mask there clears. Obviously, he picks up those 2 that he had purchased last turn, MJ and Falcon. So he'll technically have the ability, if both of those come up, he'll have the ability to roll or to swing in for unblockable damage. Well, it looks like MJ came up, but so far no Falcon. A bolt and a fist, and the Falcon comes up as a double fist. So he's probably going to want to look for. He could go for another Falcon. He could KO his sidekick. Buying a Shannon earlier on might have been good if he could have managed to buy a Shannon Carter. He picks up a Foot Ninja for 3. Chooses to go that route. That's not a bad route to go because of the amount of sidekicks that are out on the field currently. Or allies, I should say. So I draw my Constantine, and I pick out 2 more dice. Add that to the 4 to make 8. Roll everything right away. So I roll my Constantine. And I also have 4 energy and 2 sidekicks. Sidekicks not so much useful here, so I'm going to try to re-roll those along with the fists. I've already bought the Hulk, so I don't really need the fists. They're just extra energy. 1 sidekick comes back. It leaves me with a bolt, a mask, and a shield. So I pay a shield and a fist to pick up that Constantine there. Choose the Constantine over the Alfred because on more of Constantine's faces are higher damage. So there's higher damage on several more of his faces than on the Alfred. Field my Constantine. At this point I can start naming characters for him not to be able to attack with. I'll tell you this though, one of my biggest struggles is remembering to name characters with Constantine, because I go right after finishing my turn, I totally go into the tank. I go into the think tank and start thinking about what I need to do next. So I constantly have to remind myself to make sure to name someone before he starts his clear and draw step. My opponent pays a bolt, KOs a sidekick, and pays a fist for a save civilians. And I am going to think about pinging out one of his other sidekicks. It's technically not a good idea because I'm just giving him more ramp, especially with the fact that I have Oracle locking him down on being able to PXG. Probably shouldn't have done it. Had the bolt sitting there and I couldn't refuse, even though it's a bad play. I draw my Hulk right out of the bag, which is good. And I actually draw another Constantine. So what I'm looking to do is control his board, keep it open, and then build up enough presence on my side of the field zone to swing for lethal in one turn. Also known as an OTK. So Constantine comes up. My Hulk does not come up. Excuse me, Constantine did not come up either. Then I roll, and Constantine does come up, but the Hulk stays out. So I have Parallax. I have the Parallax Global. I use a shield to activate that, and not one of the bolts, just in case he comes up. He still does not come up. So this time I do pay a bolt. Let's see if he comes up now. He rolls off, but nope, he comes up as a single face. So at this point, I probably need to consider whether or not I can even pay to field him if he shows up right now. And he still does not show up. So it's unfortunate for me to have to pay all that energy to get a one fist side. Field Constantine for free, and just because I have multiple Constantines does not allow me to use his ability on naming two different things. So it's a while active ability, just in case you were wondering. That fist is staring at me in my reserve pool, just kind of chuckling, taunting me. I will use it for nothing. He picks and rolls things up. His save civilians and his big entrance come out probably flip-flopped to what he wanted. He doesn't really need that save civilians because he doesn't have any of his allies that he's rolling. And he probably wants that big entrance, so he's going to probably roll both of those, see if he can flip them. But they come up the same faces, so no big entrance to put into the bag and discount everything, and useless save civilians. If it's any consolation to him, at least he has 2 generic energy from that big entrance. So he's going to activate save civilians, but it will do nothing this turn. He'll pay 4, 2 shields, and 2 generic. Looks like he's going to pick up 1 of each of Aunt May and Alfred. I would probably take 2 Alfreds in that case because the Alfred has the staying power and the reroll factor of his ability. He passes priority and he ends turn. So I have exactly 1 die in the bag. I had 3 in the used pile and 4 in my prep area. So I don't actually take any burn damage because of not being able to draw dice. And I get my opportunity to reroll my Hulk, and there he comes right away this time. So I pay 2 to field him. Question is, do I want to do anything with this sidekick with these bolts? The answer is no. Now, the best play here is to save the bolts for my opponent's turn, because if he draws and rolls characters, then I can bolt out all of his characters in one fell swoop. My opponent spends 2 masks, or a mask and a generic of any kind, to activate Professor X Global. He's still being forced to do that because he hasn't removed Oracle from the field. So he has several characters here that he's going to try to roll up. And Falcon comes up, but his Foot Ninja does not. Let's see if he tries to reroll all of that. He has enough energy to pay for the Falcon. And this time the Foot Ninja does come up, and he gets a sidekick as well, so that's going to help him. That Foot Ninja is going to get a ton of buffs from all of those sidekicks that are currently in the field. But unfortunately for him, I'm going to be able to use my 2 bolts to wipe his board, first wiping the all the 3 defense characters, and the second one finishes off the Foot Ninja. So his board is cleared, and my turn begins. I check my bag to see how many I have, so I pay 2 masks to only move over 2 dice total. Otherwise, I'd take 2 burn damage. Sometimes that generic energy is useful. That comes from taking burn damage, but I don't want to have a roll where I miss a bunch of bolts and allow his board to fill up and then allow him to swing with Falcon. Especially with Falcon and with Foot Ninja sitting in in the reserve pool, or excuse me, within the prep area, ready to roll next turn. If I miss too many bolts, kind of like what I did with this roll, if I miss too many bolts and his board fills up all of a sudden, and he can swing in for a lot of damage, I want to make sure I have as much health as possible to avoid him killing me right away. Because even though if I take damage, Hulk still triggers, that will come after the damage is already cleared. So it's not like the Hulk is going to save me from one of those big hits.
Like, I'm pretty good at a lot of things in this game, but I am terrible.
So he rolls some things up. He gets his Falcon back on board and a big entrance. He's got a lot of energy, so that helps.
But
there's a live dice out there already.
Let's see what he does with it.
That's how I used to keep track of back.
You know, like, write it on my hand.
His best plan of action here, without any way of clearing my Hulk, his best plan of action is to actually keep those as energy instead of trying to get them as characters. Because I have one bolt there that I can drop and clear his board with again.
I try really hard to, but like if I ever miss it, then I'll put it on there for next turn.
Then it's just up to me to decide, do I want to use that as a mask or use it as a bolt to clear his board. He's paying to field his Falcon, and then he's fielding his Foot Ninja for free. This is not a scary enough board presence for me to probably want to ping his board, but I could. It also depends on what I have in my bag currently. So he makes a buy. He makes a purchase of Captain America. So I PXG once, and then I choose to PXG again because his board is not scary enough to warrant me pinging it out. So I roll everything, keeping my bag empty. Come up with one of 2 character faces on Constantine. And again, I'm just looking for lethal here. I'm just looking for the ability to ping out his board and then swing in for 20 damage. What my opponent should be doing is considering the fact that I brought Polymorph, and because I brought Polymorph, he has an ability to the ability to remove my Hulk. If there's a character in my used pile, he can buy a Polymorph and then use that Polymorph to switch the character in my used with a character in my field. So in other words, he can take my Hulk, put it in the used, and take whatever's in the used and put it out on the field in its level 1 state. You can do that same thing with Oracle. So a lot of his answers right now come from Polymorph and not from really anything else that's on his team. So it makes Polymorph a really strong character, or excuse me, a really strong card. Speaking of character, he rolled up a Captain America and 2 sidekicks. And look, I don't have any bolts on my side of the field, so he could technically swing for a lot here. This is one of those reasons why I didn't want to take too much burn damage, because I don't have the ability to clear this. And it will mean I will take a lot of damage when he chooses to swing.
Pass priority.
So he passes priority to me, and I PXG. And then he can swing with Falcon. He's actually going to swing with everything. And those on the side are unblockable. That Foot Ninja comes up to a large body that I can't block. But I am going to try to block everything else.
Oh, and then gets buffed by this, right? Yeah. So he's a 6/6.
Luckily for me, his desperation swing means his board's going to be open next turn, and I'm going to be rolling a Hulk and a Constantine. So my goal is to just avoid death here, and then hope that one of those other dice roll up. So here's an interesting interaction. The block there from Hulk should have also triggered another board wipe on his side, another 3 damage. Plus the damage to me should have done that as well. So technically he should have a clear board. It may not matter at all because I still have a ton of energy and the ability to bolt out anything that he has. But we'll find out. And right there, with me rolling that Hulk, I have more than enough energy to kill him, I believe. Because all I have to do is pay a couple bolts, ping out his board, and then I can swing for lethal. So that is the crippling power of the Hulk control. It's very board swingy, and it's very about making sure his board does not build up. waiting for him to essentially hang himself by playing characters. You put him in a tough position. Do they play the characters? Do they keep him as energy? So it's a lot of fun. That's the end of game 1. So let's hop into game number 2.